So look, today I'm just going to focus on three things, actually three themes in this discussion. We will look at the MIT distributed model on leadership, one of my favorite models. And then we'll talk a little bit about leadership in practice, what really happens on the ground once you walk out of the classroom into the real world of work. So with that, we will have Julius Caesar, one of Shakespeare's famous plays, and we'll explore the themes of loyalty, patriotism, and betrayal. Things that a leader in the real world potentially could experience. And then the last theme we'll talk about is conscientious objection. You know, you hear that variously, people standing their ground, people refusing to do things because they believe it's the wrong thing to do. Okay, so we're actually going to start by watching a short video with Antony speaking at Caesar's funeral. You know, one of the tools that a leader always have at their disposal is how to get people to follow them, right? How to create your following. And the power of this speech is just mind-boggling. I've been reading this speech all my life. Just listen to the real power of oratory, that people can use words to convince you for good or for bad. But there's always something about leaders that make us want to follow them, right? So if you are good to go, let's get some voice here. So while we are still trying to get voice, who knows the story about Julius Caesar? Has anybody read that? Okay.
Julius Caesar was a leader. That's, I would say, a Roman leader. And he was known for his contribution that were deemed by some Romans as like unethical, but like he wanted the people to have the same like class or level with regards to decision making and how things were running in the Roman Empire at that time. And because the other governors didn't have the same views on what he had installed, they tried to kill him. Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. Anybody else? Okay, there's a hand in the back.
All I know is that he's the guy that got stabbed like more than 50 times. So, yeah. Like, that's what he's famously known for, being stabbed by like his colleagues.
Okay. Anybody else? Julius Caesar, you should have read it in high school. Anybody else know the story? So you guys are going to be the future leaders of this country, this continent, this world. So you just have to start. And the reason why we do this class is to prepare you for just that. And often when I teach this class, I tell the students 99% of the stuff you will not appreciate right now. You may only take 1% away. But in 10 years' time, when you are all out there in the real world of work, you will start appreciating it. So the lessons for you guys is, even when you go to the world of work, people are looking at you when you come to meetings late. They're really looking at you. And people are wondering whether this is the person they want to to work with on the same team. So if your colleagues don't trust that you show up and you are committed to contributing your piece towards the success of a project, that is a problem. But when you are 18 and 19, sometimes you feel that you're on top of the world. And then when you're 30 years old, you find out that the world is on top of you. So try to go to class in time. You pay a lot of money to go to academic city. Let your money work for you. Sometimes I see people walking on the hallway like somebody's holding them here, like no energy, zero energy. I tell you, trust me, I've been out there for a long time. You're going to have to go out there and be energized. So as I said earlier, a course like this, you just feel like, oh, I'm just sitting in this auditorium, somebody is standing there babbling. Once in a while, they bring some important person. He comes, speaks, and goes. And we do a summary, and we dump it, and we go. Let me tell you this. This is probably the most important class you will ever take. Leadership is the most important course you will ever take. Because you go out there and you're going to work in teams. And people are watching you. People get promoted, I always ask, I think it was this class, if I remember, where I said, people get hired as a group the same year, the same month, and one becomes a CEO, or a CFO, or a COO, and lead an organization. And then I ask you guys, what happened to the rest? It was this class, right? It was a leadership class that I taught. I think it was this class. So what happens to the rest? What are the characteristics of those people that allow them to climb the ladder? If there is a ladder, the corporate ladder, what is it about them that distinguish them from every other person in the organization or persons in the organization and made them leaders? That is really what this course is about. What separates you when you all have the same things? When you have your bachelor's degree, summa cum laude, and somebody comes in with third class, and then you wake up one day and the third class guy is your boss. And you're telling everybody that when we came into this organization, I was way smarter than this guy. Leadership is the additional experience, the icing on the cake that you can use to beat every other person. So this is a tactical class. About a month ago, I sat with one of your colleagues who went to Goldman Sachs for an internship. And he told me that the lessons he learned from the leadership class he took, he saw it in real time, in real practice. And he couldn't have survived a few things if he hadn't attended the class. Maybe he just said it to make me happy, that the class is useful. But I created this class specifically because I was out there for 16 years working for Fortune 500 companies. And understanding how in 4 years I became a director in a Fortune 500 company, and I was the youngest engineer in the group. So the purpose of this course is really to teach you those tactics that your degree will not be able to do for you. Your degree only opens the door. It doesn't do anything beyond that. What happens in that room when you walk in is the purpose of this class. Did I make myself clear? What happens inside that room where the decisions are made? In some places in the world, they take your CV and you say, I have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD, and nobody will verify. That's it. They take you at face value. The only time they'll go verify your background is if you do something bizarre, and then they want to know. So that degree opens the door for you. And you enter. Nobody cares about it. They want to see what you can do. Are you reliable? Are you a strategic partner? Do you understand relationships? Can you work with other people? That is really what makes the difference, guys. That is what makes the difference. This course makes the difference. Unfortunately for me, I had to go to an MBA program many years later. And when I left that program, I kept saying to myself, if only I knew this. If only I knew that. Maybe I would have been CEO of a Fortune 500 company and not a vice president. So, for what it's worth, take what you can take out of it. If it doesn't make sense to you right now, it will make sense to you one day when you remember that old man at Academic City yelping about you coming to class late. Okay? So today I'm going to explore 3 key things. I'm going to talk about loyalty, patriotism, and betrayal. And you wonder why, right? The last one is really interesting, betrayal. Every leader can be betrayed. Okay, good, perfect. So we show you Julius Caesar, and I was asking whether you guys knew Julius Caesar, a great Roman general, conquered almost the whole world. He was in North Africa, he was in Britain, and at a certain point, his opponents felt that he was beginning to behave like God. Caesar had become divine. Was he? It's perception, right? So he was murdered by one of the people that was the closest to him, Brutus. And when Brutus stabbed him, he was surprised too, right? These guys, I've hung out with these guys for so long. They were my dorm mates. We ate together. We went to war together. Dead. A leader is vulnerable. A leader is vulnerable, even to the people around them. Betrayal is common. So how do you arm yourself as a leader against that? Then we'll also talk about conscientious objection. What makes people stand and hold their ground and say, I'm not going to do this. If you like, you can kill me. My belief system prevents me from doing that. And we'll explore examples of that because it's a good attribute for a leader to have. And we'll look at some examples of leaders that have actually explored this. And then we'll talk about the distributed model, characteristics of leadership. So we will start with this short video clip. Charlton Heston is Mark Antony here. Mark Antony was one of the closest friends to Caesar, and where Cassius and Brutus murdered him, he went to the funeral. And they were like coup plotters, right? They wanted to overthrow the government and take it over. And with just one single speech, perhaps one of the most convincing speech in human history, Rome turned against the coup plotters. So it also embodies the power of oratory. Here, negotiation skills. As a leader, you have to learn to negotiate. And Antony didn't come to that funeral to reach that eulogy by condemning the coup plotters. It was very tactical. He didn't say, you guys are animals and criminals and you murdered Julius Caesar and you did this. But he evoked the sentiments of Rome and turned the tides against the coup plotters. Sometimes as a leader, you don't have to fire a shot to win. You have to find ways to convince people to believe in your ideas. So sometimes my students will come up to me and say, I have this great idea, but I can't find anybody to fund it. And I say, really? I say, yeah. How so? And you say, I talked to this person, I talked to that person, I talked to that person. Everybody says it's a great idea, but nobody wants to give me money to do it. So you're not convincing enough. You know, you can't walk into a bank and say, I have the most brilliant idea in the world. Open your vaults and give me money to go build it. Right? You can't do that. The bank needs to make sure that this investment is going to bring them returns because they are in the money business. So how do you convince them? How do you negotiate? How do you distinguish yourself from the next project that they want to fund? So, okay, let's start with this. Let's see how loud it is, and then we can. And what is interesting, if you actually read this speech, is how convincing he was. At the end of this speech, Rome actually rose up against Caesar's killers. So, Caesar was a patriot. Antony, patriot. He brought a lot of money, but people want to kill him. So you look at around you, the history of our environment. Who knows Burkina Faso? You heard about Thomas Sankara, right? Thomas Sankara, right? Who killed him? You guys are perhaps too young to remember that, but he was killed by a guy who was his best man at his wedding. They've been friends since childhood. But when it comes to power, when you are in position of authority, you can be vulnerable. A couple of years ago, the president of Cameroon asked his very, very close friend, I think one of his chief of staff, to go buy a new presidential plane. And he went and bought a used plane and painted it nicely and brought it to Cameroon. On the first flight with the president and his family on vacation, they almost crash landed. So that guy is in jail now for at least 15 years. But this is somebody that he trusted. Somebody that he was very, very close to, right? You come to a place like Ghana, we had Rawlins, who was in power for several years. And one of his very, very close commanders, a commando, was accused of trying to overthrow the government. So when you hear people say leaders are vulnerable, that is what it means. So, do you guys have any other examples? Issues of being betrayed? I'll tell you, when I was in corporate, a guy who was very close to the previous CEO. So when the CEO was relieved of his post and he left, the next day I met him in the hallway and I said, your boy is gone. He said, to hell with that jackass. But we all knew they were close. So why did he all of a sudden shift? He has to pivot different. He has to break that association because it's no longer a popular thing to have. For me, that's a certain sense of betrayal. But there are also cultural dimensions to what it really means. In this part of the world, people have emotional bonds and emotional attachments. And if somebody gets sacked, maybe the people around him that are close to him will just leave the company with them. In America, they'll reposition themselves for your role. Right? So there are cultural dimensions to that. But the issues of leadership that you see across the world, we are all human beings. We are all sociological. creatures, the themes are the same. That you can be betrayed. Even here. Some of you will be friends the first year, and the second year you will not be friends. The third year you will not be friends. Right? Because somebody made you upset, somebody said something that you didn't like. You told them, you confided in them in the privacy of your dorms, and you heard it outside. I can see some smiles. Who has been betrayed so far? Who feels they've been betrayed? Let me see by hands. Okay, who feels that all your friends around you are loyal? So how come I always hear things like, he stabbed me in the back? What do you think that is? Who got stabbed in the back? I can see some faces that were betrayed. Anybody want to share? It's not a shame to be betrayed. You just have to be careful the next time. All right, okay. All right, can we have one conversation? As soon as I talk about betrayal, this place became like Mokola, right? Because somebody knows somebody who is not happy about something, right? Yeah, but that is human nature. That is human nature. You cannot continue to hold grudges. Sometimes you just have to move on, right? There are lessons to be learned, and they are across history. What happened 500, 600, 700 years ago that is documented could be happening today. Anybody here from Guinea? Anybody from Guinea? You're from Guinea? So the current president, the military guy in Guinea, was brought back to Guinea by the president, and he put him in charge of his special forces. And they were the same special forces that arrested him. So he used to look at Mamadi as his son, who will go to war and die for him. But that's exactly what Caesar's guys did. When they asked them why they killed Caesar, they say although they loved Caesar, they loved Rome more. And they are worried that Rome was slowly becoming a dictatorship with one guy who has declared himself almost a god. And his friend refutes that. He said, I presented him with a crown, the emperor crown 3 times. And 3 times he rejected it. Is that what ambitious people do? Ambition is made of much sterner stuff. Sterner stuff. Not, if this guy wanted to be God, he would have been an emperor. And then he said, let me take a break because my heart is in that casket with Caesar. So he's evoking the emotions of the people to revolt. And he kept referring to his opponents as honorable men. Right? Honorable men. Not demons, honorable men. Because it is not them he wanted to get. He wanted to get Rome to rise. So read it. I don't know what happens in high schools these days, but when I left high school, we could recite this from one end to the other. Friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. I've come to bury Caesar and not to praise him. The evil that men do leaves after them. It's a very beautiful speech. Whether you like literature or not, read it over and take the learnings from it. So the morale basically is that every leader is exposed. Every leader is exposed. I used to have an aunt who ran a hospital in Nigeria for several years. And she had one of her most trusted nurses. They went everywhere together. You will not believe that it was an employer-employee relationship. When she travels to Ghana, she will run a clinic for her. She goes, she will account for every penny. Then one day, they went shopping. And they saw this really nice cloth. You know, African women and their cloths. Hollandaise, really expensive. So now the owner of the hospital says, I like this cloth. It's really expensive. I'll save money to come buy it. And then they went home. A week later, she was in town and made an unannounced visit to her employee, and she was wearing the exact cloth. So she's like, wait a minute. I've known this woman for over 20 years. The family is struggling. Sometimes I have to pay her extra just to keep her family going. So how did she get the money? You know, Africans are beginning to think about witchcraft, right? How did she get the money to buy the cloth that the owner of the hospital couldn't? So she started auditing her books. And what she found stunned her. Thousands of money. Essentially what happens when people come to the hospital and they cannot pay, whatever they can pay, she records it, and then she goes back and negotiates with them, and they pay half whatever was left. So that money was never coming to the clinic. But it gets booked as debt, right? That the patient has defaulted in payment. And so she started interviewing some of those patients who owed her money and found out they had already paid. And that's where she was getting her money from. So after 20 years of working for her, the loyalty, the belief that she was the only one that could run her business for her ended. And when she confronted her with that information, she went on her knees and confessed. So trust, but verify often. Trust, but verify and often. So just because you trust somebody doesn't mean you should give them a blank check. You need to understand what they're doing for you. And you go out there and you hire people, and some will be so close to you, they are like your sons or your children, and they may be harming you and you will not even know it. Then you wake up one day and say, oh, I was betrayed. You were betrayed because you trusted. And you never verified. Or you verified, but not often. Because human beings are by nature selfish. If you don't believe me, try to save somebody who is drowning. And when they need oxygen, they'll push you down to get oxygen. And you're going to say, Kweku, but I'm here to help you. And Kweku will say, but I need oxygen first. You know, and it's fair game. You just have to understand human behavior and build your own leadership model around it so that you don't wake up each time surprised. You don't want to be that guy that shows up in meetings late And then when you open the door, as soon as you come late, you open the door, everybody turns around, and then they start laughing. You've lost your respect. You should find another job. They've given up on you. They don't believe in you. Or you work in a team, and then at the end of a review session, everybody says, well, make sure that the next time we regroup, everybody has their information ready. And then everybody turns and looks at you. They are talking to you without talking to you. Right? Because they know perpetually you are the guy who will not deliver. So remember, you are not going to be the CEO. Even your colleagues do not have confidence in you. And then people will say, well, this person climbed up because she slept her way up. Or this person climbed up because their uncle is the CEO or the COO. Well, all those things may be true. But I tell you, if you work for an organization that is in need to make money, and they need skills to make that money, they wouldn't care who you know and who you don't know. If you work for an organization that wants to get results, they will not hire you because you know the CEO. They will hire you because you have skills, you have talent that they can harness. Any organization that will hire you because your last name sounds one way, or you are from this tribe, or your skin tone is this, they are not in to make money. They won't last. Some of you may be sleeping in my leadership class, and I can see you sleeping because it's so boring. But remember, this is the most important course you will get in college for free. This is the most important. Don't worry what anybody tells you. I know every class you go to, the professor says their class is the most important. Well, tell them the president says leadership is the most important. Because that is what happens inside the room after your degree has opened the door. Okay? So read Caesar. So for me, some insights, it's compelling. Leadership that leads to murder is quite compelling and intriguing. So there's an issue of power there. It's an issue of power. There's conspiracy there. Right? There is service to one's country. That's exactly what Anthony was articulating. There is deception. They said Caesar wanted to be an emperor, and he didn't. And nobody talks much about the killers, but they talk about the greatness of Caesar. Movies are still being made about him. Books are still being written about him because he made an impact in history. And that is what we should all try to do, to be leaders that make an impact. So if you look at my leadership team, most of them are women, right? And it is a deliberate effort also to project women. I have daughters. I was taken care of by women. If women rule the world, it will be a better place. Believe me, you guys are too crooked, Seriously, if women rule the world, it will be a different place. Because when a woman has money, she's trying to take care of her children first. The guys want to go and drink and hang out. You guys have messed up Africa. That's why you need recompense. Patrick is looking at me and says, no, I disagree. But as a leader, you have to make sure you have a diversified team around you. As a diversified team. Remember the story, I don't know if it was this group I told about my boss who was female. Was it this class? And then he asked the guys whether they have daughters, right? And they all said, yeah, it wasn't this class. Oh, I tell this story to every class. So You should hear that also. So I had a boss who was female, and before she became the CEO, all the previous CEO were men. And then sometimes when she's coming to the meetings, we'll all be seated. There's one Hispanic lady, one white lady, myself, a black guy, the rest were white male. And they would just look at each other. When they hear high heels coming in, they would look at each other and they would chuckle. So one day she comes in and she says, show by hand, how many of you in this room have daughters? And everybody's hand went up. And she said, how many of you have hired women this year? Nada. Last year? Nada. The year before? None. And then she said, if you are not hiring women, who's going to hire your daughters? Right? Because the records show women hire women. So if you are not hiring women today, who are the women of the future that will hire your children? And it is because people always forget that other women are other people's daughters. Right? So part of the leadership experience is also to be aware of these things. Don't think your daughter is safe because you're a CEO today. You will not be a CEO forever. Are you guys guilty enough? But that's what happens. I hire and I tell my HR person, make sure that for this position we have enough women to interview also. You have to be deliberate about it. And you have to accommodate their special needs. People are going to have children. Sometimes when you're in a leadership position, you forget that you were born by somebody. Right? You forget that you were born. You just think you fell from heaven. And it's actually those guys that never stop sucking breast that are the worst offenders. Yeah. You guys, you the guys that could not be weaned off are the ones that are bad to women. So you see how they are all on one side. Watch them. And then all the girls are on one side. You guys are not being nice to them. You guys are not being nice. Yeah? So that is the fact. The fact of the matter is that for you to go out there and be a good leader, you have to grow everybody around you. You have to grow everybody around you. Right? Legon just got their first vice chancellor who is female. And KNUST. And those are real achievements. For a country where women have to work very hard to get to the top. And nobody really understands that at a certain point, they have to raise a family, they have to raise children. So how do you accommodate that? So that's your leadership challenge. How do you create a world that is more equal and more progressive, and that takes advantage of all your citizens? Everybody is able to contribute. That's the only way you're going to create a society that we want. Yesterday, I had a student in my office, tall bully, who goes around bullying everybody, including women especially. An older guy that should not be in the dorms in the first place. And when I closed the door, I looked to the left, looked to the right, there's nobody there. I said, listen, the next time you mess with any of my girls, I'll choke you. All right. But he wasn't only doing that to the girls, he's doing that to the boys as well. So give me money. Give me 100 cedis right now. This is not the academic city's way. Are you guys listening? This is not the academic city's way. We want to create an environment where people can live to the fullest of their potential without feeling intimidated by anybody. Is that right? That is leadership, where you treat each other with respect. So I tell you, I have 3 daughters. My oldest is 18, my youngest is 11. Even when I asked them to get me water, I said, please. Right? My 11-year-old, I said, Zelba, can you please get me some water? That wasn't how I was brought up. Right? But that doesn't mean that I can't learn new things. So we can all change. And when you tell your daughter, please, you're teaching her manners that she will extend to other people and to her children. And that creates a peaceful society. Just the word please. I'm sorry. Can make a difference. In Africa, in our societies, when you offend somebody, there's no going back. They are done with you. They are through with you. Right? But what if you just walk up to them and say, I didn't mean to offend you. If I did, I'm sorry. Right? Are you going to be diminished by that? And if you tell them that and they no longer want you to be their friends, but they will respect you because you had the courage to. Does that sound like some strange thing from somewhere else? It sounds strange to say please and I'm sorry. So I'll tell you how even simple respect changes the dynamics. So when I got my last job, before I came back to Ghana, I had 3 interviews. And the last interview, when I flew in, got picked by a limo to the office. Yes, a limo. It's possible, So I was waiting at the reception area. And the CEO came out. And he said, I have an impromptu board meeting. So it will take a little while for me to get to you. So I was there, and I was chatting with the receptionist. Then CEO comes out again. 30 minutes later, he said, I must really apologize. My meeting is taking longer than I expected, right? So I'll get to you as soon as I can. Now in Ghana, he probably didn't even come out, right? You will sit down there until you are tired. But here's something interesting that happened. So he had 11 final candidates that he had already interviewed, and he was about to make his selection when my CV got to him. So he told me 2 reasons why I hired you over all of them. 1, I've never met anybody who is a finalist at the astronaut corps, which means you are psychologically and mentally sound. The second thing was that the receptionist said you were the only person that engaged her of all the other people that were previously interviewed. You need to clap to that. So, there are no little people, you know. There are no little people. So everybody comes, they are PhDs, dressed in their suit and tie. They sit at the corner, read a newspaper, and wait to be interviewed. And they don't even look at this receptionist and say, "Miss, how's your day going?" Those guys know more about the company than anybody else. They know everybody that comes in and out of that company. They are trusted to be at that place. Their opinion is sought and actionized. So in treating people with respect, you will never know who will make the ultimate last statement that will make the difference for you. Okay? So again, in this class, you learn things that happen in real life. Okay, we good? Any questions? No questions? It's either really good or really boring. Which one is it? Both, right? Okay. I don't know if it's this class that I taught this. No, not this class. Okay, so does anybody know what MIT means? You know, I want academic study students to be the ones that their hands go up fast. Even if the answer is wrong, it's okay. Sure. Okay, so that's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Okay. So this model has been used for a very, very long time. Because, you know, you hear things like, what kind of leader are you? Right? What kind of leader are you? Sometimes I get interviewed and I get asked questions like, what kind of father are you? These are very difficult questions to answer, you know, because there's no one formula for every leader. Some leaders are very kind. Some leaders are tough. Some are a mixture of both. Some will tell you, I'm a nice guy until the demon in me comes out. Don't you hear that all the time? You hear that, right? Or don't take my niceness for a weakness. And then some will say, I can bite back, you know. So, so there are some guys here that really have something to say. What's up? So how many of you here think you are leaders? Okay. There's one brave hand at the back. Who is your class prefect? I'm serious. How many of you here think they are leaders? Okay, 3 hands. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right. That's interesting. So, where's the microphone? No, look, listen, there are no wrong or right answers. There are no wrong or right answers. So why do you think, tell us your name and then why you think you're a leader?
Okay, so my name is Surya Tao. I study HR. I think I'm a leader because I have the ability to bring the best out of people. And
Okay.
okay.
All right. There was a hand over here.
I'm Christiana. a second year mechanical engineering student.
Okay.
I think I'm a leader because I have sisters that look up to me and then they follow the steps that I'm following. They learn from me and do the things that I do.
Okay. That's cool. One of these two ruffians over there. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like I'm a leader because I chase my dreams and I feel like that inspires people sometimes. So, yeah.
Okay. No, you next. You next.
I'm Ivan, and I think I'm a leader because I'm able to see de-escalate or escalate certain situations that may go in my favor. That's why I think I'm a leader. So I'm
Okay.
able to control it.
There was a gentleman at the back who raised his hand.
All right, so my name is Akwesi, and I know I'm going to become a leader because I believe in three things that are key.
Oh, guys, let's hear him.
Yeah, I believe that there are three things that are key to being a leader, and I always follow them, which are discipline, determination, and perseverance. So,
Perseverance. Okay. Okay, anybody else? I want to hear from the girls also.
I am Martin Derry, and I think I'm a leader because I'm able to lead people to their goals.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, there's one hand here. And I know a lot of leaders here, they are looking at me, but I'm not going to say it. And I'm gonna start calling them out.
My name is Abeku, and I think I'm a leader because I usually like to take certain decisions or stances that most people will feel uncomfortable taking.
Okay. He makes the choices. Okay, there's a hand back there.
My name is Faith. I think I'm a leader because, unfortunately for me, like I've taken like the role of the leader in my family right now. So
You're the leader in your family.
yeah, like I'm majorly involved in decision making and a lot of that stuff.
Making decisions that impact people's lives.
Yeah, so I.
Okay, I'll take one in this cluster here. It's been too quiet.
My name is Sigrid, and I believe I'm a leader because I'm able to take initiative and bring people together. And over the years, I've been given the opportunity to display myself as a leader, sometimes against my will, but I still make sure the job is done.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, one more. We'll take one more and then we can move on. Patrick, you're over here. Say something. Patrick is a leader because he came to my office and he said, I want to do a project. Right?
Yeah. Right. Okay. Another reason I think I'm a leader is because usually in the evening in the hostel. Oh.
You're not the security guy, are you?
Oh, no. In the evening in the hostel, some of the people look up to me. Oh, let me finish. So some of the people look up to me to find what we are going to eat in the evening. Oh, shout outs to Larry.
Now you all know where to go for supper. Okay.
My name is Gunnar.
Okay.
But my stage name is Caesar. Yes, so I'm a leader because I get to express my ideas and the things I feel and my emotions, and I connect to people. And I believe as a leader, you should be able to touch people and help them know that they are not alone. So sometimes people tell me that, when I heard your song, I understood what you were feeling, and I'm feeling the same way too. So I'm a leader because I'm able to.
Yay! All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Wrap it up.
Yeah. So I believe I'm a leader because I'm able to touch people, and I think if you can heal people, you have really done the best.
Good. Good. You know, I was telling my engineering class the other time, you know, college is like a tunnel. And there are no toes on both ends. You can just pass through it and you're gone. That's the easiest way. You spend 4 years, you get a piece of paper, and you walk. College is an experience. You can come here and spend 4 years building strong relationships that you can rely on for the rest of your life. College is a place to gain skills. You can come and spend your time learning new skills, presentation skills, Excel skills, PowerPoint skills, Python skills, skills that you take out there and it will serve you well. So sometimes I see some of the engineering students, they are in the workshop on the weekends, they are building things, and then there are some that just complain that there are equipment that they've never used before. And I said, who is going to learn how to use those equipment for you? You have YouTube, you have faculty, you can give yourself projects and do stuff. For me, the latter part is college is a place to gain skills. That's important. That's how you're going to get jobs. So when your parents say, are you going to get jobs after graduation? That's really, you should be addressing that. Are you going to be able to gain skill set here? Or you're going to just go through the tunnel, get a paper and go? Right? So keep that in mind. So now let's look at this MIT model. So these are attributes that a leader can have, and nobody says you should have all of it. Right? So visioning. Visioning, what does that mean? You have to be able to envision the future. If you're a CEO of a company and you make products, you should be able to know what products people are going to buy in the future. You have to be able to envision it, otherwise your business is going to collapse. Right? So you take Apple. What version do we have now? Version 13, right? As one of the people that bought the first 6. And then I gave up. Right? But every year it gets better. As of yesterday, they've overtaken Samsung. Right? So who are these visionary leaders that are trending this company, that are growing it into a $1 trillion business? So in one part of the world, while people are hoping, praying, dancing in churches all night long, and hoping that manna will fall from the skies, and it doesn't, others are trying to figure out how to take over the world. A company like Microsoft, with 30,000 employees, is richer than Ghana, with 30 million people. Hope is a bad strategy. It's not even a strategy. Right? So in one part of the world, people are envisioning how in the next 20, 25 years, man will be on Mars. We are thinking about e-levy. Right? While in one part of the world, where they don't have enough fertile land, They are growing rice and corn, and they are selling to us. We're buying chicken from Australia, lamb and beef from Brazil. Do you really need God or you need a psychiatrist? Because these are not the problems that God solves. These are problems that human beings are capable of solving. So how do you have that visionary leader who is going to say, in the next 30 years, we are going to need 1 million computer scientists? And so we should incentivize students to study computer science. Who is that leader that says, in the next 10 years, we should be exporting rice, corn and cassava and onions and oranges to different parts of the world rather than importing them? That's visionary leadership. In the absence of leadership, your life depends on luck. And even luck, you have to prepare for it. So for me, that is what visioning means. Are you capable of anticipating a future and defining a roadmap to it? As president of Academic City University College, I'm charged to envision how many students I'm going to get every year, what that revenue model is going to look like. When do I have to start building new structures? Do we have enough land? Should we go out there and buy land now? And not 5 years from now, when we have many students that can find places to sleep? Do we need to build a place for our faculty and staff? Should the president live on campus in the future? What kinds of programs are we going to offer? Where are our students going to work when they graduate? Do we have exchange programs that they can go on while they are here? These are all things the president has to worry about. So you guys understand what visioning is? Make sense? So you take it down to your family. I worry about whether I'm going to have enough money for my kids to go to college. Right? How much do I need to save now to make that possible? Where am I going to get PhD faculty from? So that my faculty are not overstretched trying to teach everything. Do I have the best faculty in the world? So that is it at my level, at my professional level. There's one at my personal level, and there's one at the national level. So now you begin to see the challenges that our countries face, right? You begin to see that without a vision, you're in trouble. If you go to places like Malaysia, every year they debate what they are going to do for each state, how much money they are going to spend, and where the money is going to come from. And at the end of the year, they can actually show you what was done with the money. Our type of leadership says, trust me, I'm going to fix this place in 3 days. It doesn't happen. So sense-making. Who can guess what sense-making means on this distributed model? Sense-making. Yes. Can we give you a microphone?
Sense making is basically making reason out of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to, you can't just have a vision. The vision alone cannot fly. You have to collect data. If you're an economist, you need GDP data, you need exchange rates, You really need tangible information. If you want to farm rice in Ghana, you need to know how much we export into this country all the time and how much of that share you can get. A couple of years ago, I was trying to find out how much chloralkaline, that is basically most of the industrial chemicals that we use in Ghana, from textiles to petroleum refinery to water, because I needed that information for an investor. So where do I go to? Customs, right? Everything that is imported into the country goes through customs. So custom was able to provide data that says, this is the tons of chlorine that we bring into Ghana every year for the last 10 years, year by year. Here's how much hydrocarbonates we brought into this country, and on and on. So these are the components of the chloralkali. Then I wanted to find out, additionally, where the chlorine goes to. Right? They don't have that data. They know how much comes in, and they don't know where it goes. But you see where I'm going with this? I need to know the volumes, and then how much money we spend outside to import it in, and then to convince the investor that if you only invested a quarter of that money to build a plant here in Ghana, we'll be able to take 20% shares, because our capacity at the beginning will not be big enough to cover everything that is imported. But there is money to be made even if we do 20%. So sense making, for me, is just collecting that set of information that informs your decision, right? Make sense? Sense making has to make sense, because without making sense out of complexity, you cannot project your vision as a leader. So let's look at relating. It almost gives itself out, right? Relating. A leader has to be able to relate to others, right? You have to be able to empathize. You have to feel other people's pain. You can't be that leader that says, I want you to do these 10 tasks today, when you know it's only one that is possible. Relating to others, listening to other people's ideas. Right? I mentioned Malaysia. Malaysia actually got their first palm nut plant from Ghana. Palm nuts. They got the seedlings from Ghana. And they are now the world's largest exporter of palm oil. So where did we go wrong? Because they had a visionary leader. So I remember I was in Malaysia one time, and we were in a tour bus. And when you enter the tour bus, there's a guy in there that is giving you the history. Then he goes on about palm oil. And he says, our first seedlings for palm oil came from Africa. And when he said that, I couldn't help myself. I stood up and I said, Ghana. You know? So I had to take credit for my country. And they are the world's largest. What are we doing? So inventing. Any questions on relating? Sure.
Please, of all the points you said so far, that means vision is a must. So our leaders, they don't have vision. I don't understand, because it's, you said, please, I want to, please, yes, because you said when they came for the palm trees, they planted it and because they were having visionary leaders. And even if our leaders, they are having, why didn't it come true? Why didn't their vision come through? Yeah, because everyone is having a vision, and then when they come into power, what they promised us, they won't do that.
So her concerns are, if vision is so powerful, what happened to ours? Don't our leaders have vision? Look, we have a political system of promising. Promises being made and broken. The national interest is not the priority. If the national interests were a priority, when it comes to things that will move the country forward, all the parties will come together. That's a fact, but everybody comes and defines a vision, the next government comes and throws that vision away, puts their own vision. Vision is not something you can keep kicking around. At a certain point, you have to say, we are all in this together. And that is important. We are all in this together. It's like raising a child. When the parents cannot agree on how discipline needs to be dispensed, then the kids begin to move to one side. If your mother is nicer than your dad, all the kids fear dad, they love mom. If mom is a tough one, all the kids gravitate towards the father. That happens every day in our homes. But when both of you look at you and say, Patrick, this is it. This is it. Right? You've seen that before? You've never seen that? Well, in my house, even if we disagree, it's not in the presence of the children. We disagree inside. When somebody says, you were a little too harsh, I say, all right, next time I'll tone down. But the message is delivered. So we need to get to a point where we're not just even, our leaders have visions, they write them down. We see that written all the time. You take the first president of Ghana, and he says, I'll build a motorway to Paga. That was a vision, but he built it to Tatakwashi Circle, and he was overthrown. He built over 200 secondary schools in Ghana. So just to answer your question, when you work in an organization, it's not everybody that has all these. Sometimes you have a department that focuses on strategy. So they help to define the vision of the organization. So people you have in there should be people who have the skills to research and anticipate where a young university, for instance, like this needs to be. And even in the corporate world, we have departments that are involved in strategy. So there are resources that work on just strategy for the organization. And that gets presented to the CEO. And the CEO will review and say, this is excellent. And that becomes the official part of the strategy. So if the CEO doesn't have the capability to envision the future, even if you give him or her the brightest ideas, nothing will come out of it. So inventing, what does that mean? To invent. A leader that is inventive. So I consider myself an inventive leader because I've come up with solutions to a lot of problems in my career. So in an organization, you have a research department, right? Research and development, and their job is to build new things, build new product pipelines. But this goes beyond that. It's almost related to visioning. You have to be able to invent a future. What does the perfect world looks like? So when you go to an interview and somebody says, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? How are you going to evolve as a fresh man or woman coming out of college? And in 5 years, what does the world look like for you? You change careers because the dynamics have changed, right? I was a corporate guy for 16 years. And I'm in academia for 6 years. Who knows? I may decide to become a security guard in the next 10 years. I'm evolving myself. Now, don't laugh because you don't know what kind of security guard that is. I could be following a celebrity around. Body protect, he says him. So he's envisioning a future where the president of the university is his bodyguard. That's not a bad idea. Right? So when I say security, everybody is like security guard, like the ones at the gate. But you know, there are bodyguards that make $4-5 million a year. Right? And all they have to do is to dress nicely and follow a celebrity, work out in the gym, and look fearsome. And that's good enough, you know. Any questions? Sure.
My question is,
yes,
if everyone can relate to your vision, how will you work it out? Let's say you are trying to raise money for cancer. Now, not everyone has cancer. So they'll be like, I don't have cancer, so why should I, fight for your dream? What do you do in that case?
Okay. So that's a fair question. What do you do when people don't believe in your vision? I started this class with a clip by Anthony, right? And I said, you have to be convincing. Negotiation is very interesting. So before you give up that people don't believe in it, how are you actually presenting your vision to these people? And are you presenting it to the right people? Because if you look at contemporary Ghana, one of the reasons why Honorable Ablakwa did not come here today was because he's going to vote for E-Levy, right? E-Levy. And I saw E-Levy after the budget reading. And I'm thinking, where did 1.75% come from? And then those guys started wrestling in Parliament. And trained as a systems person, I'm thinking, how could they have presented this to the people of Ghana such that they will call their MPs and tell them to vote for it? I'm getting to you. How could they have convinced Ghanaians so that they will put pressure on their MPs to vote for it? Communication, negotiation, critical. It is not that people don't want e-levy. They have not been able to convince anybody that that money is going to be put to good use. In Malaysia, they'll tell you, we're going to build a bridge over the Volta Lake. And it's going to cost 1 billion. And we are going to raise the money this way. And at the end of the year, you'll be able to go see the bridge. So if you have an idea and people are not buying into it, maybe you don't have the right audience. You don't have the right people in the room. You have to build a coalition of people who believes in your idea. And you will always find people who believes in your idea. That's why I said earlier, if you have a brilliant idea, you can't just walk into a bank and tell the manager, look at what a brilliant idea I have. Julius, somebody's at the door. I think she stepped out for a moment. You can't just go and say, oh, EcoBank, you have so much money and look at me. My name is Ebube. I'm from Academic City. I have this brilliant idea that will change the world. So give me money. That's not going to happen. What is going to help is if you go in with a PowerPoint presentation that has the financials, that shows clearly how much money you need to start that business, how much money you are going to be earning every year for the next 10 years, and what is in it for them. And maybe it's not the Hacho EcoBank you need to go to. You need to go to the headquarters of EcoBank where the decision makers sit. And if that is a bank that is in business to make money, as soon as they see your numbers, they'll call somebody from finance and say, validate this. And they'll go and do their research and come back and say, the plan that you presented makes sense. It is something EcoBank wants to invest in. Billions of dollars are being spent on cancer research today. Billions. In fact, there are probably pharmaceutical companies today that sell so much cancer drugs that they probably don't even want a solution to cancer. Right? So if the audience you invite to your meeting are from pharmaceutical companies that make money from the status quo, they're not going to buy into your vision. Right? Make sense? So find the right audience. Find the right people. I don't know if it was this class I spoke to, which this is year 2, right? Or year 3. So I met a lady in California, Silicon Valley, 2011. And she spoke to my Sloan class, which is where this comes from. So you're already getting MBA level information here. I paid $250,000 to go to that program for 1 year. $250,000, not $2,500. You're getting that for free. She said she went around pitching her ideas to start a company, and she pitched 100 times before one investor walked outside to her and said, I'm interested in investing in your company. I'll give you a trial. So one of our mates said, how were you able to handle the 100 rejections or the 99 rejections? So we are still coming to presenting ideas. You see where we have cultural limitations. Once you are rejected one time, you give up. Say, in Tree, they'll say, if guys don't like it, to hell with you, I'm out of here, and you throw your presentation away and walk. She went 100 times. And she said, the reason why I survived till the 100th time was each time I was rejected, I took the notes, the reasons why they rejected, and then I updated my presentation for the next trial. Each time she was rejected, she took that input, refactored it into her presentation for the next pitch. So she didn't go home and cover her head in blankie and tell people she was depressed. This month is not going well at all. I've been rejected 10 times. The gods must be angry. Tomorrow I have to see the pastor. I need some Holy Spirit power for the next one. Or heaven is going to open a way. No. She got up, modified her presentation, went on the road and presented again. And at the time, she was probably one of 5 women in the whole of Silicon Valley that were running tech companies. 5. So don't give up. There will be obstacles, there will be challenges. But each time you run away, you run from an opportunity. And sometimes the ideas you start with are not necessarily the final ideas that will go into enterprise. But the more you talk to other people, you refine your ideas until you end up with something that you never even thought about. And you build a corporation. Questions? Yes, sir, there's one at the back. For relating?
Like, for the relating leader or relating leadership, you not think that it's the most to be prone to betrayals?
Do I think relating is the most useful to jobs?
No, like the most, like it has the most potential for betrayals. The relating leadership.
I can.
In the aspect of relating to people,
Yeah.
does that not make you prone to betrayal?
Okay, sorry. So in relating to people, doesn't that make you susceptible to being betrayed? What do you guys think? Look, whenever you have to deal with people, those possibilities are there. So the power of relating is for you to understand the dynamics of that relationship. You know, that you can't work alone. You can't solve all the problems alone. That's why in the corporate world, you work in teams. So how do you build strong relationships with people without being betrayed? So yes, you are prone, but it's a leadership quality that you have to be able to sieve through some of these challenges. You know, when somebody is talking to you, they are looking away all the time. Are they telling you the truth? So relating doesn't mean that you should offer yourself sacrificially. You know, relating means that you are going to need to work with other people. You are going to need to sell your ideas to other people. You are going to be able to negotiate with other people, and it's a skill set that you must have. So the question here was, if you are interested in solving a great problem in the world, how do you make sure that you are relating to the people who can make it happen for you? You know, but betrayals are real. Betrayals are real, and some people will get lucky, some people will not. You know, in Ghanaian history, we have so many examples. There were two friends sitting down in Bolga drinking beer, and then they heard on the news that there was a coup d'etat. So one looked at the other one and said, there's a coup in Accra. And he said, I'm going to Accra to see what is happening. And the other guy said, be careful. You can't put your finger in fire to test how hot it is, you know. So one came to Accra. The other one, after finishing his beer bottle, he drove across the border to Burkina Faso. One of them is alive. Still. The guy that drove across, obviously, is still alive. The guy that drove to Accra was betrayed and shot. So is it luck? Is it being wise? You don't know. You know? But maybe he should have just followed his friend. In hindsight, now he could have also come to Accra and be made a member of the PNDC, you know? So you never know. But these are all attributes, you know? These are characteristics that we expect leaders to have. And we are by no means saying that every single leader embodies all these attributes. You know, even in a research organization, you can have real guys who are visionaries. So a visionary doesn't necessarily have to be the CEO in charge of the company. Of course, if your CEO is a visionary, it's a good thing. You know, but you will find out that in every occupation that you guys end up with, in every position that you end up with, you are expected to demonstrate some of these. If you can't work with other people, you're unable to relate to people. And if it's a hospitality business, for instance, where you have to deal with people every day, you're not going to fit, right? Other things people do to actually verify these are personality tests. You know, So maybe if you're going into the army, they do psychometric analysis to figure out if you are the type that can be a good soldier. If you're going to the police force, there may be a test that tries to figure out where you fall. But if you do a test on a leader where you fall, you will see that they'll score more points in certain aspects of this than in others. So somebody could be 80% visioning, 10% sense making, and 5% relating, and 5% inventing. Even when you look at your classmates, you can start to put people in categories. Now, I'm not saying go out there and say Mr. Relating or Mr. Sense Maker, but you can tell there are people in your class that want to be by themselves. They don't want to be bothered. They just are not wired to build relationships with other people. In the corporate world, especially for some of us that were in research and development, you have guys that want to stay in his or a cubicle, and they don't want to be bothered. Right? So you can say they are low on relating. Right? But they own most of the patents that is driving the organization. So they are very good at inventing, very good at sense making. Right? And then you have kids like us that come in, and in 4 years you're a director, and you have strong relating capabilities. You are leading from a visionary, you have good vision, and maybe very good at inventing. But you can't have all of this 25% each. You can't. Sometimes I ask my wife whether she remembers her classmates, and she says no. I said, how can you say you don't remember your classmates after 5 years in high school? So relating is low on that side, right? Don't tell her I said that. Otherwise, I'll be homeless tonight. Or I may end up sleeping in the couch, But that is true. Relating is not, And then you see little kids, they want to play with robots. They'll tell you they want to build a drone. There's a young kid that came to visit a couple of months ago, Kevin, the car guy. He wants to be like the Elon Musk of Africa, right? So he sees himself as a strong visionary, a great inventor, and some sense making, right? Is it making sense? So when you go to your dorms, just ask yourself, where do I fall in this model? Now, if you are the guy that everybody comes to in the evening for dinner, you are probably strong at relating, right? They know if they pass by Patrick, there will be some food to eat. So strong on relating, right? And you find people in your classes that are the party guys. When they call party, the whole place is full, right? Who is the party guy in your class? Who is the party animal? Right? Who is the inventor in the class? Who? You are the inventor. Okay, so you see, you can actually relate to these things in real life, I'm going to call somebody and say, where do you fall on that? Don't look behind you, I'm talking to you. Where do you fall on this distribution table? Where do you think you are? Are you the people's person? Are you the person with great ideas? Where are you? That's your personality. Are you the person that relates with everybody, the person that everybody comes for solutions, the visionary with great ideas about starting your own fashion house when you leave school? Where are you? And this is not fixed, As you grow up, you'll be moving around in these areas. It all depends on your circumstances.
I think I fall in visioning.
Visioning.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody is visioning. Who are the inventors? There's one here. Okay. You see, even your classmates know where you fall. Right? Who makes them? Who makes a lot of sense? A sense maker. A person with solutions. Where are the sense makers? Or who are the mathematicians in your class? Where are the engineering students? Can I see you by hands? All right. Can I see the engineers by hand? Where do you think you fall in this distributed model? You solve problems, right? You're problem solvers. You make sense out of complexity, right? But it doesn't mean that engineers cannot be relating also, because sometimes we have engineers who go out there and become technical support people. They become technical sales people. It means they have skills to convince people to buy stuff. They can relate, right? They can speak both the technical language and the societal engagements. They are good at that. In fact, a lot of people that will sell you your CT scans and MRIs are technical salespeople. They have engineering degrees or some technical field, and then they also have the relationship. Car dealers. You know, if you've ever dealt with a car dealer, you understand what Anthony was trying to do, to convince you to buy, you know. So when I first bought my BMW, I walked in and I took a look at it, and I said, that's a nice car. And he said, you want to test drive it? And I'm like, yeah, but this is the showroom. How do we get this out? He said, oh, don't worry. If you want to drive it, we'll go. Then he opens this side of the building. I was like, wow, this was in Princeton. And then he gave me the key. He just did this and dropped it in my palms, you know. Then I got in, started it, adjusted the windows, then came out, then went on the highway, and he said, don't worry, just step on it. You know? And I was, then we went, turn around, and when we were coming, he said, how does this babe feel like? That's what he said. And I said, really nice. He said, it's a nice car. It's a nice car, right? I said, yeah. Then I said, but I want the one with the red leather seats. He said, oh, the last one we have is in California. But if you want to pay $5,000 extra for transport, you can have it. So I took it. Then you know what happened next? These guys are brilliant. So a year later, when it was time to service my vehicle, and they will actually call you and tell you that your car is due for servicing. I said, sure. I'm ready for servicing. Say, where do you want us to pick your car? At work or at home? And I said, I'll be home. He said, okay, we'll bring you a car and take your car to the shop. So they brought me a brand new BMW 3 Series and left it with me for a week. Go back and listen to Anthony's speech, very convincing. And then they called me up after a week and said, your car is ready for servicing. Where do you want us to drop it? I said, I'll be home. They brought it, and I gave the guy the key. He said, what do you think? I said, it's a very nice vehicle. He said, you ready for an upgrade? I said, this one is still a year old. He said, well, you never know. You can trade this in and add a little bit more, and you can get this. 3 days later, I got a call. So, Mr. McBagonluri, we're just following up with customer service about the vehicle, your service on your car. How is it running? I say, everything is fine. Have you thought through the 3 Series? You know, so they keep coming at you until you buy something. And these guys are technical people because they can actually explain to you the differences between the 2 vehicles. So technical sales guys have excellent relating skills. All right, any questions?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
My name is Andy. So I want to know what mindset would you advise us to go into the corporate world with? And I say this with all due respect, but you have, from your tone, you have a very wicked mindset.
I have what? A very
wicked mindset.
Wicked mindset.
Yeah. So.
Okay, go, keep going.
So yeah, you have a very wicked mindset when it comes to going into the corporate world.
Yeah.
Do you advise that we should be optimistic or stick to being wicked when you're going out into the corporate world? Because from your experience, you went into the corporate world with you deal with whatever comes your way. But then you realize, since it's like every man for themselves out there, your mindset changed to being a wicked person. Not that I'm saying your personality or your character is a wicked
Oh, no. I understand.
Yeah. And you made that thing about African people taking offense. So I'm making sure that you don't take offense with this question. So would you advise that we be optimistic or wicked?
Look, that's a fair question. He says, I seem to have a wicked mindset about going into corporate. So the truth of the matter is that the corporate world is a war zone. That's a fact. And I try not to tiptoe and say, oh, it's just hunky-dory. You get there, you work hard, and you're just going to climb up to the top. That is not true. You have to go in with, I said two things I always say. You need to have the skills. So you have to learn. Nobody is going to hire you because you are tall, cute, and handsome. People are going to hire you because you have skills. Period. Excellent presentation skills if you're a marketing person. Excellent programming skills. Excellent calculations, modeling skills. So you're going to be hired for a reason. So my wicked tone says, you need to have that. And I'm not going to pretend about it. Whether you are studying marketing, communication arts, you need to have some skill set. People will hire you for your skill set. That's a fact. The second thing is that you are going to work with human beings. You will not be able to do everything alone. So you need to know how to do some of these things to relate. So I come across strongly because, like me and folks of my generation, we basically walk into the minefield not understanding anything. There are cliques in corporate world. The same way in your dorms you have friends and you guys click together. So how do you navigate this complexity? You have to relate to others. You have to be situationally aware. Sense making. You know, if each time you go into the cafeteria and there's a group sitting there and you go in and you sit and everybody starts walking away, next time you don't go there, right? And it happens. So you're sense making your environment. You know? And nobody is ever going to come and say, what's your name? What's your name? Andy. Nobody is going to come and say, you are due for promotion. Or you are due for more money because you are tall and handsome. You know, how do you negotiate that? Right? I worked in a fast food place, and there was this guy there before I got there. And 6 months later, I became an assistant manager, and I was given a pay raise. And he got up and he went to the manager in Beaver Creek, Ohio, and he said, Fred just got here and he just got promoted. I need to be promoted too. And the manager looks at him and says, what planet do you come from? And he quit. Right? So do you have the skills to negotiate a salary increase? Right? I would have gone in there because I have corporate skills now, and I'll say, hey, Mike, you know, I've been here for the last 6 years. I think I'm now ready to take on additional responsibilities. Now, I'm talking money, and I'm talking promotion at the same time, but I haven't used those words. Right? Which manager doesn't like you to take on more responsibilities? But the moment he agrees to give you more responsibilities, naturally, money comes with it. But if you walk into a negotiation and you say, because Fred just came recently and got a pay raise, you must also get a pay raise, it's the wrong place to start from. So that's one trick you've learned today. Right? Or you go for an interview and they ask you, do you have a question? And you are nervous, you are so in a hurry to get out. That's actually your best moment to get a job. Because all that they're actually asking of you is how do you close this deal for yourself? That moment. And in my first job interview, I looked at him straight in the face, and he's called Todd. And I said, Todd, do you have any doubts in my capability to do this work based on the conversation we've had in the last hour and a half? And he said, no. I said, are you sure? He said, absolutely. I said, so where do we go from here? Right? You're locking the deal in. So this is not wicked stuff. This is tactics. And you can apply what you've just heard anywhere. Because if somebody says they have no doubt in your capabilities, and you follow up and they say they are sure, you get a job. Right? So he says, I'm traveling now, but by the weekend, you will hear from us. And then while I was at the airport, the call came in. And that's 1 week after 9/11, when nobody was hiring anybody. Planes were not even flying. So the whole essence of this course is not to tell you that the corporate world is such a dangerous place. You gotta be wicked and tough. No, it's a minefield. How do you walk through it very nicely without some mind going up and blowing up your legs? Knowing what to negotiate for yourself, how to deal with people. And I kept saying in Africa, when you upset people, they'll walk past you in the hallway, they won't even say a word to you. In the corporate world, you may not like somebody. You may never have a drink with them. But when you come to work every day, you look at them and say, Linda, how are you doing today? That's a tact, because you are controlling your emotions. When your culture says somebody crosses you, you never talk to them again. To where it says you must work with them. So how do you adapt to work with them? All right. Any questions before we wrap up? Okay, one question back there. That's the most active participant in this leadership class.
What are your thoughts on the unfair advantage when it comes to leadership? And do you have any advice for those who do not have these unfair advantages? And let me clarify on the unfair advantage. So it actually falls under luck. And what it means is for example, Ivan Spiegel, for example, the CEO and founder of Snapchat. Well, when he started out, his parents were actually lawyers who worked for these oil billionaires in the UAE, like Iraq over there, and they had money. And his mentor was one of the co-founders of YouTube, who helped him actually build a billion-dollar company. There are some out there who are also creating their softwares and stuff, but since they don't have this unfair advantage, they can't make it to the top. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, unfair advantage. Well, 1,000 years from now, somebody will be standing on the same podium and say, it's never ever going anywhere. It's never going anywhere. Unfair advantage has always been there, whether it's tribal, whether it's network, whether, I don't know how you can deal with it, because even in the United States, where things are a little more transparent, these things happen. You know, people's fathers play golf. You know, one of my father's very good friends, when I went to the US, PhD, 2 master's degree, one of the most brilliant engineers of all times. When I was growing up, he was like the Einstein from Upper West. And one day his boss comes to him and says, hey, Kala, here is a kid from my neighbor's son. He's studying engineering. I want him to come and do internship with you. So the kid spent the summer with him. The following summer he came, and all the 4 years he was at college, he spent time with Kala. Well, you dial back 12 years later, that kid was the CEO of the company. What are you going to do about that? You can't. But I also alluded to the fact at the beginning of this class that if an organization is in business to make money, they will find the best skill set to make them successful. Companies that over-rely on nepotism and cronyism would eventually fail, because you can't take action against anybody. It's packed with family and friends. So how are you going to evolve? Visioning is going to die because there's no sense making. Everything is just relating. Nothing is being invented. So according to this model, sooner or later they will be in trouble. But these kinds of things exist all the time. So you can either spend all your life trying to fix that, or you can look for where you can find opportunities. I mean, sometimes in regular companies, you go in and after 3-4 years, you realize that your own visioning does not align with the vision of the organization. And you have to make changes. So my guidance on that is focus your energies on the things that can make impact for you. You can't change the world. You can only change the little space in which you find yourself. As we are talking right now, somebody is probably going abroad on a scholarship from Get Fund, while 20,000 other people who could have gotten it are not getting it. And that's a fact of life. That's a sad answer, but that's true. Yes, sir. One more question and we'll go.
So my question has to do with how religion, as a leader, how religion affects the mindsets of the people around you. Because somewhere in your discussion,
in my speech, yeah.
Yes, you were talking about the fact that some people, let's say, you were using Christians specifically, tend to push everything to going to church and praying and all of that. But I think it's more of a mindset reconfiguration thing.
Yeah.
Because in Ghana, for example, the larger majority of us are Christians. So if all of them grow up in a society where they think if there's a problem or something, it gets fixed in the church, how, as a leader, do you solve that problem by teaching them that, no, it's not about that, but it's about you reconfiguring your mindset?
Yeah, you see, I don't want to get into the religious polemics because it can get complicated and it is personal. But I think religion in Africa has always been used for the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons. And it's both the clergy and the political class that have sandwiched people into it. Because look at them, they are driving Rolls Royces and Range Rovers and V8s. Some have built universities that their own church members have to pay to go. That doesn't make any sense to me. And on the other side, the political class doesn't want to touch them because they are so powerful they can take votes from you. So somebody preaches hope for you and lives a lavish lifestyle. Then when they need money, they'll put a basket there and say, you should put money in it. But when you need money, they pray for you. I think, no, I don't want to get into religion. So we just have to start thinking, and then they'll tell you, though, it's the mindset of the people. But psychology is real. Psychology is real. The power to manipulate the mind is real. So it's not the people, it's what they are fed with repeatedly. If you read Pavlovian psychology, if anytime you want to feed your dog, you ring a bell and it salivates, the day there is no food, if you ring the bell, it will still salivate because you've configured the mind. So in the 18th century, 1800s, Ulysses James Joyce, a famous Irish writer, said, and I quote, he said, there is too much God in Ireland, too much God. How that sounds to me is that we have the divine power. God has given us the knowledge, the health, the strength to envision a future for ourselves, to make sense out of it, to invent it, and to be able to relate to others. And when you go, there's a place in Russia, near Siberia, the temperatures are -50 the whole year, but there are human beings that live there. How have they been able to invent themselves or reinvent themselves in such an environment? And then you look at all the things I listed earlier. We are importing everything. And we have everything. And we are just hoping. That's a problem. That is a problem. The African has shackled him or herself and is hoping to be saved by divine grace. And the white people themselves that brought us religion, if you travel through Europe, and I'm speaking from experience. I go into a church in a place called Levallois in southern part of Holland, near the Belgian border. A church that can sit 5,000 people and there are only 4 people sitting in there. So what happened? Has religion served its purpose for them and they don't need it anymore? Maybe. I don't know. But they don't go to church anymore. You go to Germany, they don't. You go to Holland, they don't. The largest church in Germany now is a Nigerian church. Guys, have a good day. That will be for another talk.